She thought her money made her untouchable until she got arrested, caught on camera drunk, reckless, and spitting on a cop. Carly Winchester's meltdown went viral, turning her from a wealthy business mogul into a disgraced felon overnight. But what happened next? How did her empire collapse? And could she ever recover? Stay tuned for the shocking true story of the woman who lost everything. Asterisk. Stay till the end, because this revenge, it's legendary. The sun had set over Tampa, and the city streets were alive with their usual Friday night energy. A steady flow of headlights weaved through the evening traffic, each driver with their own destination in mind. Among them, however, was one vehicle that moved with a dangerous lack of caution, a sleek black luxury SUV that sliced through traffic like a predator on the hunt. Behind the wheel sat Carly Winchester, a well-known name in Tampa's elite circles. She wasn't just wealthy, she was filthy rich, a woman who flaunted her success like a badge of honor. Owning 2 high-end beauty franchises and a handful of lucrative real estate properties, she had built her empire on arrogance, entitlement, and an unshakable belief that she was untouchable. But tonight, Carly wasn't just cruising in luxury. She was flying down the road with reckless abandon. Drivers honked as she weaved dangerously close, tailgating so aggressively that the glow of her headlights flooded their rear windows. She barely gave them time to react before swerving left, cutting through lanes as though she owned them. A few seconds of hesitation from another driver, and it could have ended in disaster. One such victim, a family in a red Toyota, watched in horror as Carly's SUV nearly clipped their front bumper before zooming past. The father, gripping the wheel, cursed under his breath, while the mother clutched their toddler's car seat. "Did you see that? She almost ran us off the road," the mother exclaimed. Further up the highway, Officer James Callahan had his radar trained on the lanes ahead when a black blur shot past him. His speed detector barely had time to register 81 miles per hour in a 40 miles per hour zone before Carly's SUV disappeared into the distance. His instincts kicked in immediately. Something was off. Firing up his sirens, he accelerated onto the road. As soon as Carly saw the flashing lights in her rearview mirror, her manicured fingers clenched the leather steering wheel. She wasn't in the mood for this. She tapped the brakes, but only for a second. Instead of pulling over, she made a sudden sharp right, veering off the main road and into a Publix parking lot. Her tires screeched as she skidded into a corner space, hitting the curb with a sharp jolt. Officer Callahan pulled in seconds later, watching the scene unfold. This wasn't the behavior of a cautious driver. This was someone trying to avoid him. Carly exhaled, fixing her platinum blonde hair in the mirror before reaching for her designer purse. If there was one thing she had learned from her years at the top, it was that people could be bought, talked down to, or intimidated into giving her what she wanted. This officer would be no different. She was about to test that theory. Officer Callahan stepped out of his patrol car, adjusting his belt as he approached the driver's side window. With a practiced knock on the tinted glass, he motioned for Carly to roll it down. She did so with an exaggerated sigh, her expensive perfume wafting out into the night air. "Ma'am, turn off your engine," he instructed. A lazy smirk crossed her lips as she pretended not to understand. "Is it in park? I don't want the car rolling." He added, "Oh, for God's sake," she muttered, pressing the button. The engine hummed to silence. License, registration, and proof of insurance. Callahan continued. With deliberate slowness, Carly dug through her designer handbag, producing the requested documents with theatrical flourish. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" She batted her lashes, feigning innocence. "Not a clue." Callahan kept his face neutral. "You were flying past me at 81 in a 40, tailgating dangerously and cutting through traffic. Then you hit the curb pulling in here, which makes me think you were trying to avoid me." Carly let out a fake, incredulous laugh. "Oh, please. I was just trying to get home. What's the big deal?" "The big deal," Callahan said evenly, "is that your driving was reckless. I need to make sure you're safe to be on the road." Her eyes flashed with annoyance. Who did this cop think he was? As Callahan studied her, his training told him something was off. Her pupils were dilated, her eyes glossy. There was something unnatural about the way she was speaking, a strange mix of confidence and slurred arrogance. "Ma'am, have you had anything to drink tonight?" She scoffed, rolling her eyes like a bratty teenager. "Ugh, are we really doing this? I had one drink. One. At 7 this morning. A mimosa. 2 days ago. Whatever." Callahan narrowed his eyes. That didn't add up. "You had a mimosa at 7 in the morning?" "Yes." "2 days ago?" "Yes." "So, you haven't had anything else today?" "No." He leaned slightly closer, inhaling subtly. The faint scent of alcohol was unmistakable. "I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle," he said firmly. The shift in her demeanor was instant. "No." "Ma'am, step out of the vehicle." She shook her head, crossing her arms. "I don't feel comfortable. I don't trust you. I don't know what you'll do." Callahan's patience remained steady. "I'm not asking, ma'am. I'm telling you. Step out of the car." With an exaggerated huff, Carly shoved open the door, stepping onto the pavement in her designer heels. "You better not scuff my shoes," she warned. At that moment, Callahan knew this was going to be one of those nights. Then her bank account. Standing outside the SUV, Carly flipped her platinum hair over her shoulder and gave the officer a smug, knowing smile. "Listen, officer, I don't know how much you make a year, but I run 2 businesses. I make $700,000 a year. I don't have time for this nonsense." Callahan barely reacted. "I need you to stand with your feet together and keep your hands by your sides." She tilted her head, pretending to consider his request. "Or I could just leave." His expression didn't change. "That's not an option." She let out a high-pitched laugh, loud and shrill. "This is hilarious. Do you know who I am?" Callahan sighed. He had seen this type before. People who thought their money made them immune to consequences. What Carly Winchester didn't know was that her money, her name, and her arrogance weren't going to get her out of this one. Not tonight. Carly Winchester stood in the glow of the patrol car's headlights, her arms crossed in irritation. The cool night air had done nothing to sober her arrogance. Officer Callahan watched her closely. Her behavior, the exaggerated confidence, the defensive tone, the inconsistencies in her statements, was starting to paint a clear picture. "You had a mimosa at 7 a.m. 2 days ago," he repeated, tilting his head. "Yeah," she snapped, her irritation growing. "And if I say it again, will you finally believe me?" Callahan didn't flinch. "Just clarifying, because first you said 1 drink, then you changed it to 2 days ago, and then you mentioned something about 7 a.m. That's an odd detail to remember." Carly's nostrils flared. So it doesn't make sense." She rolled her eyes dramatically, shifting her weight onto one leg. "Oh my God. Do you need a transcript of my drinking schedule? I can text my assistant." Callahan didn't take the bait. "You mind if I ask what else you drank today?" Carly hesitated. A beat too long. Then she doubled down. "I had water." She pursed her lips. "Diet Coke." Another pause. "Oh, and a Starbucks refresher. And 6 espresso shots." The last addition was practically an afterthought. Callahan raised an eyebrow. 6 espresso shots. "Yeah." Carly smiled, a fake, condescending smile meant to make him feel stupid. "It's called caffeine. Maybe you've heard of it." Callahan exhaled through his nose. She was lying, and he knew it. The problem was, Carly hadn't realized how deep she was digging her own grave. The parking lot was silent, except for the hum of the patrol car's engine. Carly Winchester stood beside her luxury SUV, tapping her manicured nails against her arm as if she were a celebrity being inconvenienced by a minor disturbance. "All right, ma'am," Callahan said, stepping back. "We're going to do a simple field sobriety test." Carly groaned loudly. "Oh, my God. This is so unnecessary. Can't you just breathalyze me so I can go?" "We'll get to that," Callahan said evenly. "First, we need to do a few exercises." Carly huffed, shaking her head as if this entire ordeal was beneath her. "I don't have time for this," she muttered under her breath. But she had no choice. Callahan demonstrated the walk-in turn test, showing her how to place one foot in front of the other, heel to toe, in a straight line. Stand right here, he instructed, motioning to a painted parking line. Carly stared at the ground, then back at him. I don't want to do it on that line. Callahan blinked. What? You did it on the pavement, she argued. Not on the line. So why should I have to? Callahan clenched his jaw. The line is for reference. It helps you stay balanced. Carly laughed mockingly. Well, maybe I don't need help staying balanced. Ever think about that? Callahan's patience was thinning. Ma'am, this is a standard procedure. Carly threw her hands in the air. Oh my God, fine. But if I fall, I'm suing you for making me do this in heels. She dramatically placed one foot in front of the other, swaying slightly. She took 2 wobbly steps before stopping. This is dumb, she muttered. Keep going. She wobbled again. Then she stumbled. Hard. Carly nearly toppled over, catching herself on the hood of her SUV. She blinked, swayed again, then snapped her head toward Callahan like a predator that had just been challenged. That was because of my shoes, she hissed. Callahan tilted his head. Are you saying you can't complete the test in those shoes? She scowled. Obviously. Then take them off. Carly's jaw dropped. Excuse me? Callahan remained neutral. If your shoes are interfering, you can take them off and try again. Carly's expression flashed from outrage to panic. No, she snapped. I'm not walking barefoot in a Publix parking lot. Do you have any idea how much these cost? Callahan exhaled. Ma'am, either you do the test or we move on to the next one. Carly crossed her arms defiantly. No. Callahan nodded. That was all he needed to hear. All right, he said, pulling out his notepad. Refusing a sobriety test can be used against you in court. Carly's entitlement cracked. Wait, what? You're refusing to complete the test? No, I'm refusing to take my shoes off. Callahan stared at her, which means you're refusing to complete the test. Carly's face turned red. Oh my God, this is police brutality. Callahan almost laughed. No, ma'am, this is the law. Carly was spiraling. Her usual weapons, manipulation, condescension, and privilege, weren't working. She had to think fast. I want to call my lawyer. You can do that after we finish here. My best friend is Andrew Warren, she sneered, as if name-dropping a state attorney would suddenly change reality. Callahan didn't react. That's nice. Carly's face twisted in rage. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Her whole life, she had gotten away with everything. Bad business deals, broken contracts, even firing employees illegally. Money had always bailed her out. But money wasn't helping her now. Callahan sighed, clicking his pen. Ma'am, based on your driving, your behavior, and your refusal to complete the test, I'm placing you under arrest for DUI. Carly froze. Then she lost it. The second Callahan reached for his handcuffs, Carly jerked backward like a cornered animal. You can't arrest me, she shrieked. Callahan barely had time to react before she stumbled backward, nearly tripping over her own feet. Ma'am, this is illegal, she screamed, her voice echoing to the parking lot. Callahan had heard enough. In one swift motion, he secured the cuffs around her wrists. Carly gasped like she had been shot. You're making the biggest mistake of your life, she seethed. I bring money into the city. I make this town better. Callahan guided her toward the patrol car, ignoring her tantrum. Carly thrashed in his grip. You don't understand. I make $700,000 a year. Callahan didn't even blink. Not tonight, you don't. The sound of Carly Winchester's designer heels scraping against the pavement filled the quiet parking lot. She dragged her feet with every step, making it as difficult as possible for Officer Callahan to escort her to his patrol car. This is illegal, she screeched. You have no idea who you're messing with. Callahan ignored her. He had heard it all before. The same empty threats. The same entitled rage from people who believe their wealth put them above the law. As they reached the patrol car, Carly suddenly dug her heels into the pavement and flung herself backward. Callahan reacted fast, tightening his grip before she could drop to the ground. I can't go to jail, she screamed, her voice cracking. I have a business to run. A luxury business. Do you even know how many people rely on me? Callahan exhaled through his nose. Ma'am, stop resisting. Carly gasped dramatically. I'm not resisting. I'm refusing. There's a difference. Not legally. Carly's rage flared, but before she could argue, Callahan opened the back door and guided her in. As soon as she was inside, she threw her head back against the seat, letting out a long, guttural scream of frustration. The patrol car door slammed shut, trapping her in the reality she had desperately tried to avoid. The second the doors locked, Carly switched tactics. I can't breathe, she shrieked, thrashing against the seat. I have suffocation issues. I'm dying. Callahan, now seated in the front, didn't even turn around. You're fine, ma'am. I am not fine, she bellowed. I need air. I need air. I can't breathe. Her voice escalated into a high-pitched wail, shaking the very air inside the vehicle. Callahan remained calm. He had seen this before, a last-ditch effort to escape arrest. I'm not opening the window, he said, starting the engine. Carly's head snapped forward in disbelief. What? I'm telling you I can't breathe, and you won't help me? This is a violation of my rights. You're talking just fine, ma'am. No, I'm not. I'm suffocating. I need air or I'll die. Callahan reached for his radio. Dispatch, suspect is secure and in custody, currently feigning medical distress. Carly's jaw dropped. You can't say that. I'm telling you it's real. Callahan ignored her, shifting the car into drive. Take me to a hospital. Carly shrieked. I demand a medical examination. We'll have medical staff check you at booking, Callahan said flatly. No, I want a private doctor, my personal physician. Not how this works. Carly let out another banshee scream, kicking the car door. You are literally killing me right now. Callahan turned up the AC. You'll be fine. When Carly realized her fake medical crisis wasn't working, she pivoted, this time, to pure verbal assault. She leaned forward as far as the seatbelt would allow, her voice dripping with venom. I bet you feel real powerful, don't you? She sneered. Callahan didn't answer. She smirked. Yeah, I bet you get off on this. Arresting a rich, successful woman while you're stuck making what, 50 grand a year. Still, Callahan didn't react. Carly's grin widened. You know what's funny? I make more in a month than you do in a year. Nothing. Oh, what? No comeback? She taunted. God, I bet you're one of those losers who peaked in high school, played football, thought you were going to go pro, and now look at you, just another nobody in a uniform. Callahan's face remained neutral, but inside, he was already mentally filing this away for the report. Carly wasn't done. You know why you do this job, she sneered. Because you're too stupid to do anything else. I could buy and sell your entire life. Callahan finally glanced at her through the rear-view mirror. No, ma'am, he said, his voice calm, but I am about to take yours. Carly blinked. For the first time since the arrest, a flicker of fear crossed her face. As the patrol car rolled toward the station, Carly had officially lost all sense of control. Her tirade continued, but her words became less calculated and more unhinged. You think you're going to win this? She snapped. You think I'm going to let some low-rank officer ruin my life? No, I will ruin yours first. Callahan said nothing. Carly's hands clenched into fists. I will make one phone call, and you will be done. Your pathetic salary? Gone. Your pension? Gone. Your job? Gone. She leaned forward, her teeth clenched. I will make sure you never work in the city again. Callahan kept driving. Carly growled under her breath, then suddenly spat, hard, at the back of his seat. The saliva landed on the side of his headrest, dripping onto his shoulder. Callahan stiffened. For a second, there was silence. Then, he slowly pulled the car to the side of the road. Carly's satisfaction was instant. That's right, she purred. What are you going to do now, tough guy? Callahan turned in his seat. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with something dangerous. Battery on a peace officer, he said. You just earned yourself a felony charge. Carly's smirk disappeared. What? Callahan grabbed his radio. Dispatch, be advised. Suspect just escalated charges. Add battery on a law enforcement officer. Carly's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a DUI anymore. This was serious. She could fight a traffic stop. She could buy a lawyer to beat a minor charge. But a felony? Even her money couldn't make that disappear. The moment Carly realized she was no longer in control, the fight drained from her. The screaming stopped. The threat stopped. Instead, her breathing turned ragged, and for the first time that night, she looked small. The police station came into view, its glowing lights a final, undeniable confirmation of her fate. Carly stared out the window, her hands trembling against the cuffs. This wasn't supposed to happen. People like her didn't get arrested. Yet here she was, hours away from being booked, fingerprinted, and locked into a holding cell. Callahan pulled into the lot, shutting off the engine. For the first time that night, Carly's voice was small. "Can we talk about this?" Callahan didn't answer, because at this point, there was nothing left to say. Carly Winchester had never been anywhere as humiliating as this. Her entire life, she had strutted into five-star hotels, VIP lounges, and red carpet events with her chin high and heels clicking on polished marble floors. But tonight, her designer heels were gone, confiscated during the pat-down. Her wrists ached from the cold bite of handcuffs. And worst of all, she wasn't walking into luxury. She was being marched into a police station. Every step felt like a nightmare unfolding in slow motion. This wasn't supposed to happen to her. "This is ridiculous," she muttered under her breath. Callahan, walking beside her, didn't even glance her way. At the processing desk, a female officer, a no-nonsense woman with a tight bun and tired eyes, gave Carly a once-over. "Name?" she asked flatly. Carly snapped her head toward Callahan. "Tell her who I am." The officer raised an eyebrow. "You can tell me yourself." Carly's lips curled in disgust. "Carly Winchester." The officer nodded, scribbling on a clipboard. "Charges." Callahan didn't hesitate. DUI, resisting arrest without violence, battery on a peace officer. Carly's stomach twisted. Hearing it out loud made it feel real, like a permanent stain on her life that no amount of money could erase. She inhaled sharply. No, this wasn't over. She could still fix this. She lifted her chin, schooling her expression into calculated confidence. She still had one card left to play. Carly sat in the holding area, bouncing her knee anxiously. The moment they allowed her one phone call, she swooped in like a hawk, grabbing the receiver with both hands. She dialed. The rings felt like they lasted hours. Then, a groggy male voice answered. "Hello?" Carly nearly sobbed with relief. "Andrew." "Oh, thank God. It's me." A long pause. "Carly?" "Yes. I need your help. These stupid cops arrested me, and it's all a mistake." Andrew sighed heavily. "Jesus, Carly. It's 3 a.m. "I know," she snapped. "That's why you need to fix this. Get me out of here." Another pause. Longer this time. When Andrew finally spoke, his voice wasn't what she expected. "Carly, I can't help you." Carly froze. "What?" "I'm not the state attorney anymore," he said, his voice flat. "I was removed from office. Over a year ago." Carly's mind reeled. No, that wasn't right. He had power. Influence. He was supposed to make things disappear for her. "You can still call someone," she insisted. "I mean, come on, Andrew. It's me. You owe me." Andrew's voice hardened. "Carly, I don't owe you anything." The words hit like a slap. Carly gripped the receiver tighter. "You're really going to let me sit in jail?" "Me?" A beat of silence. Then the dial tone. Andrew had hung up. Carly's hands shook as she slowly placed the phone back on the receiver. This was the first time in her life that someone with power had refused to help her, and she had never been more terrified. Carly sat on the hard metal bench of her holding cell, her body still trembling with rage and humiliation. The cold air bit her exposed arms, and the stale smell of disinfectant burned her nose. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that she was trapped. She had spent years looking down on people like this. People who got arrested, people who ended up on the wrong side of the law. She had thought she was untouchable. Yet here she was. She looked around at the other women in the holding cell. Some were crying. Others sat in stony silence. None of them belonged here in her mind, and neither did she. This is just temporary, she whispered to herself. I'll be out by morning. She had to be, right? By morning. Carly was brought before a judge for her bail hearing. She sat in an orange jumpsuit, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The judge, an older man with sharp eyes, read her charges aloud. Driving under the influence, resisting arrest without violence, and finally, battery on a peace officer. Carly flinched. She glanced toward the back of the room, expecting to see someone, anyone, waiting to bail her out. But the seats were empty. No friends, no family, no Andrew Warren, no one. And in that moment, she finally understood. For the first time in her life, she was truly alone, and no amount of money could save her now. Carly Winchester sat in the defendant's chair, her nails digging into her palm. This was not how things were supposed to go. She had been certain that someone would bail her out, that the moment word got out, her friends, business associates, anyone with influence, would swoop in and fix this. But no one came. Now, she was sitting before a judge, wearing a beige prison-issued jumpsuit instead of her usual designer brands. Her hair was unstyled, her face bare of makeup, and the weight of reality was crushing her. The judge cleared his throat, scanning over the charges. Ms. Winchester, he began, you have been charged with driving under the influence, resisting arrest without violence, and battery on a peace officer. Given your actions during the arrest, the prosecution has requested an enhancement on the DUI charge due to reckless endangerment. Carly's chest tightened. No, that was worse than she expected. She stole a glance at the prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman in a navy suit. The woman was staring at her like a lion about to pounce on wounded prey. This wasn't just about a DUI anymore. They were going after her hard. And for the first time since this nightmare began, fear outweighed her arrogance. Carly's lawyer wasn't cheap. She had called him the second she was allowed another phone call. A high-powered attorney who had handled cases for the rich and reckless before. He stood beside her now, adjusting his tie, trying to present some version of Carly that didn't look like an unhinged woman who had spit on a cop. But the evidence was overwhelming. The body cam footage was played for the court. The moment it started, Carly's stomach twisted. Every entitled word, every drunken slur, every smug smirk. It was all there. Her arrogance, her threats, her screaming meltdown in the police car. And then, the moment she spit on Officer Callahan, the room went silent. Carly felt a wave of heat crawl up her neck. She had never been embarrassed before. Not like this. This wasn't a private moment of shame. This was a public execution of her reputation. Even the judge looked disgusted. Ms. Winchester, he said after the footage ended, his voice heavy with disappointment. I see no remorse from you in this video. Carly's lawyer quickly stepped in. Your Honor, my client was intoxicated at the time. No, the judge cut him off. Intoxication does not excuse this behavior. Carly's breath hitched. She was losing. And this time, there was nothing she could do about it. The judge shuffled his papers. Then, in a voice calm but firm, he delivered her fate. For your driving under the influence charge, I am sentencing you to 1 year probation, 100 hours of community service, and mandatory alcohol rehabilitation. Your driver's license will be suspended for 12 months. Carly sucked in a sharp breath, but he wasn't done. For your resisting arrest without violence charge, we'll pay a $1,500 fine. Carly's palms felt sweaty. She could handle fines. But then, for your battery on a peace officer, which is a felony, I am sentencing you to 6 months in county jail. Carly's vision blurred. Jail, not probation. Not a fine. Real. Jail. Time. The words hit her like a physical blow. No, she whispered. Her lawyer straightened. Your Honor, my client is a first-time offender. Surely jail time is excessive. The judge's gaze hardened. Your client showed blatant disregard for the law, for human decency and for the safety of others, he said. And frankly, Ms. Winchester, your behavior was abhorrent. You think money makes you untouchable. It does not. Carly's throat went dry. 6 months. 6 months in a jail cell. Everything she had worked for, her image, her business, her social standing, all of it gone. And for the first time in her life, Carly Winchester had no control over her own fate. News spread like wildfire. The moment Carly was sentenced, it was all over the media. Tampa businesswoman sentenced to jail for DUI and assaulting officer. Local beauty franchise owner arrested after drunken outbursts. Carly Winchester, from socialite to inmate. Her mugshot was everywhere. Her employees quit. Her business partners severed ties. Her franchises lost clients overnight. No one wanted to be associated with violent, entitled drunk who spat on a cop. For years, Carly had built an empire on an image of power and prestige. But all it took was one night, one arrest, and one viral mugshot to burn it all to the ground. 6 months later, Carly stepped out of the county jail, squinting into the Florida sun. She had lost weight. The designer wardrobe was gone. Her manicured nails were chipped, her hair unstyled. But more than that, she looked different, less smug, less sure of herself. She glanced around. No cameras, no reporters. No one was waiting to welcome her back. She had entered this jail as a woman who thought she was untouchable. She was leaving it as a woman who finally understood what consequences felt like. For the first time in her life, Carly Winchester had been humbled, and for the first time in her life, she had no one to blame but herself. As she walked toward the bus stop, head bowed, she realized something she had never once considered before. Maybe money wasn't the most powerful thing in the world. Maybe accountability was. Carly Winchester sat alone at a bus stop, staring at the cracked pavement beneath her feet. The world around her was loud, fast, and indifferent. Cars zipped by on the highway. Pedestrians walked past without a second glance. No one recognized her. No one cared. 6 months ago, she had strutted through life with untouchable arrogance. But now, she was invisible. Her once perfect hair was limp and uneven. Her nails were chipped, a far cry from the perfectly manicured hand she once flaunted. And for the first time in her life, she had nowhere to go, no penthouse waiting, no chauffeur, no personal assistant, no empire to run. She reached into the brown paper bag the prison guards had given her, pulling out the only possession she had left, a dead cell phone, a credit card that might not even work anymore, and the wrinkled designer dress she was arrested in. Pathetic. She clenched her jaw, blinking hard. She wouldn't cry. No, she'd fix this. She'd get everything back. Because Carly Winchester wasn't built to be a nobody, stepped into what used to be her business. The high-end blow-dry bar she had built from the ground up, but something was wrong. The gold-plated sign above the door was gone. Inside, the space looked different. The furniture was new. The branding was completely changed. A younger woman, in a sleek black blazer, glanced up from behind the reception desk. Her face twisted in recognition. "Oh," she said, her voice lace a quiet shock. Carly straightened. "I need to see the manager." The woman hesitated. Then, a voice from the back of the shop. "There's no need." Carly turned just as her former business partner, Emily Parks, stepped into view. Emily had once been her second in command, handling the logistics while Carly basked in the spotlight. Now, she stood before her in a power suit, heels clicking against the marble floor. And in that moment, Carly realized the truth. Emily hadn't just taken over the company. She had replaced her. Carly's chest tightened. "This is still my company," she forced out. "My name is on the paperwork." Emily tilted her head. "Not anymore." Carly's stomach dropped. "What?" Emily crossed her arms. "While you were in jail, the board voted you out. Your shares were liquidated. The brand was restructured. Everything you built, it's not yours anymore." Carly stared, her hands clenched into fists. "You stabbed me in the back." Emily sighed. "Carly, you did this to yourself." The words cut deeper than she expected. For the first time, Carly didn't have a comeback. Carly stormed out of the salon, rage bubbling in her veins. She wouldn't accept this. She still had connections, wealth, influence. She could bounce back. And so she started making calls. One by one, she reached out to old business partners, former investors, industry contacts. But the answers were always the same. "Carly, we can't be associated with you anymore. Your arrest was too public. You're a liability. The damage to your reputation is irreversible." The final blow came when she called her last safety net, a longtime investor who had always backed her ventures. He answered, voice cold. "Carly, don't call me again." Click. The silence was deafening. She sank onto the hotel bed she had rented for the night, staring at the ceiling. The truth was undeniable. She had burned every bridge, and there was no rebuilding from this. Weeks passed. Her money dwindled. The reality was sinking in. No one wanted to work with her. She was no longer Carly Winchester, the powerful business mogul. She was just a disgraced felon with nothing left. Then one day a call came in, not from a business partner, not from a friend, but from a small, low-budget salon in downtown Tampa. They had seen her resume. They knew about her fall from grace. And yet, they were offering her a job, not as an owner, not as a manager, as a stylist, the lowest position on the ladder, a job she would have laughed at a year ago. And yet, Carly stared at the offer, email, heart pounding. Could she even do this? Could she swallow her pride and work in a salon she didn't own? Could she start over? Her hands shook as she typed out her response. "I accept." 6 months later, Carly stood behind a salon chair, carefully curling a client's hair. She wasn't the center of attention anymore. She wasn't the boss. But for the first time in her life, she was trying. She had spent years believing money made her powerful. But true power was learning from her mistakes. A younger stylist walked over, whispering, "Hey, is it true that you used to be a millionaire?" Carly gave a small smile, adjusting the curling iron. "Yeah," she said, "I was." The stylist hesitated. "Do you ever think about getting back into business?" Carly paused. Then a soft, honest laugh. "Maybe," she admitted. "But this time, I do it differently." The client in the chair smiled. "I love that." For the first time in her life, Carly wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just being herself. And somehow, that felt more valuable than anything money could buy.